Plot: Quest for Camelot, 1998. Written by Hannah Ling. An adventurous girl, a young blind hermit, and a goofy two-headed dragon race to find the lost sword Excalibur to save King Arthur and Camelot from disaster. Voiceover off.
When you're blind and watching movies, what will you find? A blind superhero whose superpowers are acting like he's not blind. A sighted actor over dramatically touching people's faces. Or maybe the whole joke is that they're bumping into different places. A spectacular, macular generation. Tunnel vision to your television. And do they off this movie with audio descriptions? They're movie buffs who know their stuff. You'll be thoroughly entertained. Twin Sky and Melissa throughout film history and Citizen White Cane.
Hello. And welcome to Citizen White Cane, the podcast that hears out every movie, even if we don't see the point. My name is Sky McLeod,
I'm Melissa Bukta.
and we are talking about the Quest for Camelot today.
I'm so excited. I tell my friends ask, what do you do? What are your hobbies? And I'm like, I podcast with an awesome blind friend, and we talk about movies. And there's literally their second question is, have you talked about Quest for Camelot?
It's interesting. That is the second question of I have not gotten that one yet. I told my mom we were watching this, and she was like, "There's a blind character in that." Which maybe she didn't see it because the blind is kind of a main character.
I know. This movie, you will forget this movie the moment you finish watching it.
Apparently, yeah. Hopefully we didn't, or this would be a very boring podcast. We'd be like, wait, is that a movie? I know I watched it last night, but wait, so, are we sure it exists? Yeah, no, it is. It's somewhat forgettable, especially if you saw it back in the 90s, 98 is when the movie came out.
Yes,
officially.
Yep, 98.
So
during the tail end of the Disney Renaissance, which is how we actually got this movie.
because Warner Brothers was like, we got to do this shit.
Right, because everyone wanted to be Disney and copy the formula, which is why this movie is basically copy-paste Disney, but done terribly.
Very poorly.
Very, very poorly.
Yeah, and apparently they fired everyone halfway through making it.
Yep.
Which is good.
And, I did, in my little bits of research and whatnot, I did manage to find one of the animators has a YouTube channel.
Oh.
And Alexander Williams, and he was the lead animator on the villain of the movie, Ruber. And I always want to say Ruger, and that's not correct. Ruber. And he has nothing but good things to say about the production. And granted, it's not a very long video. I did think one of the things he had to say was quite interesting, though. He was very grateful to work on the film because he actually got to be the head animator on a villain. And if you were working over at Disney or some other studio,
the highest.
Right.
Yeah, that's not something you just randomly give out to people.
He probably wouldn't have gotten to do that. So he was very...
Yeah, everyone wants to animate the villains.
Right. Yeah, because the villains are cool. So he was very thrilled to get to animate this villain, and he got to put so much of himself and his ideas into the character, the way the character walks, the way the character moves, the way his eyes twitch. I
was going to be his megalomaniac... just kind of...
not necessarily the writing of the character.
Fuck socialism, I want all the money.
Yeah. But he also got to attend the recording sessions with Gary Oldman, who plays the villain.
Yes.
And he got to do little sketches and things of expressions that Gary Oldman would make. So he had a lot
sketches,
of...
drawings. I was thinking they were doing a little sketch. No,
drawings.
Sketches, totally a fair way of putting that.
Drawings. But it was really interesting to hear from someone who worked on it, because it's so easy to just say the animation sucks, the movie sucks, everything is terrible. I still hold those opinions. However, I understand, there's an army of people that work on an animated movie. Yeah. And
it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's very of its time.
Yes.
And in some ways it's it's kind of, it's a mix, it's all mixed up. In a lot of ways. They fired half of the people working on it. So that makes it feel like there's a lack of continuity and the story doesn't really make sense.
The story
because
makes
of
no
that.
sense.
But it's actually like does a nice thing that you don't do anymore, which is that you do have different animators working on different characters, and so there is a kind of a mixing of styles, which is actually kind of a nice thing. And so that's where the kind of like mashed up weirdness of it kind of feels cool in a way that you don't always get to see now, that it's not all one kind of unified vision. And I don't know, I kind of like the fact that, you know, the kind of old school way of having different people animating different characters. I don't know.
No, I mean, there are definitely, I try really hard in everything I watch to find the positive, like to find something that you like, that you enjoy, because if you're watching something you hate, that's the only way you're going to get through it. And I'm not saying watching this was a slog, but the glaring errors and the things that I don't enjoy about the movie definitely came out again much stronger when having watched this. And I, in my reviews, looking at reviews of the movie and everything, a lot of people would say, oh, well, especially the YouTube people, you know, I remembered loving this movie when I was a kid, and now I'm 35 and I'm watching this movie and it's like, oh, how did I ever actually willingly enjoy this? And I must have been an asshole kid, because I remember going to the theaters to see this and I came out and I'm like, well, that was garbage. That was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, that seems like the correct way to do it. I mean, like, I don't remember seeing this in the theaters as a kid. I mean, 98, I would have been 5, so I might have, who knows, I might have, and just, I mean, probably did. My family would take us to a lot of animated movies, but like, I don't remember watching it at all.
I remember like the marketing push for this was super heavy. Like the stupid two-headed dragon was everywhere. So my stupid child mind probably, you know, that got me in the door, and it was an animated movie, and I like animated movies, and so we went and saw it. But I I also like never was as excited as at animated movies until I was an adult. Like my family, everyone loves animated movies, and there's a lot of love for that. So I was like, I'm the one who doesn't as much. So I'm sure if we saw it, I was not the one who was like, let's go see it. So I just don't remember. But I also was probably too young to remember watching it now. I mean, I was actually like, yeah, this is fine. I mean, it's so ridiculous to just how 90s it is. The music is so funny because the music is just so
truly could not be any other decade. Like it's just so aggressively 90s in just such an extremely aggressive way.
However, in my book, the music, some of it, not all of it, some of it is actually one of the few saving graces of this movie.
It's just, but it's like, it's weird. It just feels like you're in a supermarket in 1999 or something. Like it's just it doesn't feel like music you would ever put on. Like it's all music that like you just couldn't escape from in stores as like that's it, you know.
And yet the only song, and this just blows my mind, the only song to survive and to get nominated for an Academy Award, we're talking about the Academy Award nominated film Quest for Camelot, was The Prayer. And people will be like, oh, The Prayer, that song's been around forever, blah 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 blah. And you're like, actually it has not. It came from this film.
Wait, so, and which song was it?
So it's the one that goes, I pray you'll be my eyes and watch her as she goes and help her to be wise. Help me to let go. I sang this for a talent show, so it was very popular.
We were talking before about playing clips, and you didn't tell me we don't have to because you would do a great rendition of it on the podcast.
Oh my God.
And then we don't have to worry about like the copyright police coming after us.
It'll just be covers.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was beautiful. I couldn't do that. I couldn't even remember that song.
Thank you.
Is that a famous song that we remember?
Yes. Well, okay, in my family it was famous because my mom, you know, I grew up listening to what my mom listened to, and it was all like Celine Dion, Charlotte Church, Barbara Streisand, Josh Groban. So and Andrea Botticelli. So all of these people have done this song. This song is how Josh Groban got famous, because Celine Dion was going to sing this song with another person, and that other person couldn't make the thing or whatever. So they plucked Josh Groban and was like, hey, do you want to sing this song with Celine? And it just blew up.
Wow.
So
That's
it's a beautiful song. It's so simple and gorgeous and lovely, and they will fucking waste it in this movie. Oh my god.
But it was written for this movie.
Yes, it was written specifically for this movie.
So funny. I mean, yeah, it's like very, I guess it is very emotive. It felt, it felt very contextually wrong because it's like during a chase sequence.
Oh, it's so poorly used. It's so just. I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm just like, wait a minute, could we slow down for a second? Because
The tone is
so wrong. This mother.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, I kind of liked it. I think the song would be worse if it was matching the tone. I feel like the uncanny dissonance.
And I guess
of it, like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I guess I'm coming at it having, have years to adore this song. So like I love this song, and to see this song used so poorly because
that's a very different context for me where I'm like, well, this song does not fit this scene and it's hilarious.
It just feels so insulting. I was just so sad. I was just so sad.
It's really funny though because they're like it's a very like kind of longing, like, oh, care, or not longing, but like
be safe. It's a
be
prayer.
Safe,
I mean, it's basically the song, and the title of the song says all it is it's a prayer. It's a mother's prayer.
Right. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And so it's very like quiet, emotional,
right?
Like
over.
It's very muted, like like intensity.
You have the beautiful dulcet tones of Celine Dion because she was Lady Juliana's singing voice.
Right, because everyone had singing voices.
Right. Except Jerry Oldman and Eric Idle and Don Rickles, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Eventually, we'll also have to get to the blind character.
Yes, we'll get there too.
Yeah,
actually.
So the song plays and it's literally a chase sequence. So it really should just be like the Mission Impossible theme kind of vibes or something like that.
With all the sound effects not muted. Like nothing is muted, nothing is balanced. The mix on this movie, and I
love, oh my god, the mix. I was like, it's very modern because it feels like every single voice actor was recording this from their closet.
Yes,
was sending it into
it's
someone.
not good.
It's shocking.
Sometimes I literally couldn't understand what people were saying.
It's so great. It's like, because I was like, this must have been recorded outside with someone wearing a mask. And then I was like, oh, right, this was 98. This was not during coronavirus.
They were in a studio. They were in a recording studio doing this.
It's like, because I had just been listening to a podcast earlier that day where I was like, they didn't like state it, but it was like people together. And so they were obviously wearing masks. And so their voices sounded different because they were obviously all needing to wear masks. And I was like, oh, so the voice actors must have all been like wearing masks, not had the best like microphones in their personal studios. Like, that is not the explanation for why the mix sucks. I guess it's just that they fired everyone, probably.
I guess.
Like, because I think the mixing, I read that like they had been like they were just not really done mixing, and that was one of the most. That was the thing that suffered the most, which I was like, yes, that is correct. That did suffer the most.
That checks out. That
Yes.
Because I was wondering maybe it was just the version that Apple has to rent because that's where I rented it.
I thought about that, but I was like, these mistakes are not something that would ever be. These are like have to be baked in. Like these are baked in problems. Like
right, because then you go and watch. Like I watched some of the YouTube reviews, and they also play clips from the film, and the audio is the same. And I'm like, okay, it's not
because
me.
it's like definitely that the mix is totally off volume wise, but it's like the mix is the volume's all fucked up, and then there's a lot of places where there should be some background noise, but it's just like people like talking in a sound studio. Like it's just like there's nothing there. Like it's like we're outside, but you just have two people talking to each other with absolutely no background noise at all. Like it's so bizarre. It's just like
I'm so glad I'm not the I knew you'd notice.
Yeah,
like 20 minutes in, I was like, "Oh, Sky, we're gonna talk about this. Sky's gonna notice."
But then sometimes it's fine. Like it was weird. Like it would be like 20 or 30 minutes of the movie in the middle. It was like it was totally. I was not noticing the mix at all, and then it like went back to the like shitty thing where it's just people far away talking into microphones, but there's also no background noise. And I was like, oh right, the mix in this movie is so inconsistent. But like they do mix it. They have like at a certain point when they're in the Forbidden Forest, like the mixing is is good. Like, and they
Yeah.
actually have sound effects. We
Yep.
have multiple characters. We have like, does it have a score? It has all these original
there's-
songs.
Yes, there's plenty of original songs. There is underscoring too when it needs to be there.
Right.
It's not,
But like it's
too memorable, but it's there.
In the Forbidden Forest, we have a lot better sound mixing. But then like outside of it, which I mean, I get why the blind characters want to fucking go outside of the Forbidden Forest because the sound mixing is so much better in there.
Well, okay. So speaking of sound, did you pick up on the numerous amount of cartoon sound effects that just perpetrates this movie?
Well, it's a cartoon though.
I know, but here's okay. And so here's what I said I was not
like
gonna.
Mickey Mousing. Well, I mean, they were trying to emulate Disney, so they got to do some Mickey Mousing.
True, but I associate more of like the weird zany cartoon sound effects with Warner Brothers.
No, there are some like things where you're like, is this Looney Tunes? Like, what is happening?
But it's like that thing should not make that sound. Like we've set this. Yes, it's a cartoon. Obviously, it's a cartoon. But we've set this world up to be grounded. Somewhat.
Yeah.
So when someone is running, or when the dragon swallows the falcon or whatever, and it's like, boop, 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 and you like, wait a minute. No,
it is really
this
funny.
does not work. It doesn't sound
The
right.
sound
to my
mixing
ears.
is just so. Oh my god, you gotta love it though. I mean, there's so much fun shit with the sound. I mean, this movie like it doesn't have audio descriptions, but I feel like all of the ridiculous, wacky, like very bad but fun stuff is all in this just fucking so inconsistent and bad sound mixing. But it finds a lot of different ways to be weird and bad, and like I don't know, you got to give it credit for that.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, it exists. There it is. The animation is fine, but it's not great.
Yeah,
The
it's not.
characters are either moving weird or not moving enough,
There's some weird like. Which it's not like we have one blaringly obvious because it's 1998's like CG aspect, one character, that is obviously computer generated. You're like, what the fuck? It's extremely jarring, but that's 98 for you. And the rest is
you must be talking about the ogre.
Yeah.
that they meet. Yeah, they meet this ogre in the forest
And it's
they're,
Shrek.
They're trying to rescue Excalibur. Yeah, but I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh man, who booted up like the PS1?
Yeah, it's
Like,
really bad.
What video game is this? Because
It's 98 trying to do CG in it. Yeah.
I mean, good on them. Like they tried and they accomplished a thing, but it just doesn't look.
No,
it doesn't
it's
look
very
great.
bad.
And this is coming. So okay, I don't know if you've found this out in your research, but this is the movie that ruined Warner Brothers Animation.
Wasn't it also one of their first attempts?
It was their third.
Oh, really?
Because
I didn't
they
realize
had
there was...
their first was the Iron Giant.
No, that came after this.
Did it? Was it really
This,
after?
I swear this was in my reading.
That doesn't matter. Point is, this movie sunk their animation studio. So movies like The Iron Giant didn't make any money and didn't
my
didn't
family
get the
was obsessed with,
recognition.
and I do remember watching.
Right, because that movie is a modern animated classic.
Yeah,
that movie
that was
also
beloved in my household.
Right, that movie also used CGI animation.
Yeah,
and it looks great.
A lot more seamless.
Holds up. So,
Yeah.
and then the other movie was Osmosis Jones, which I don't care about.
I think it might. I believe it's in the other order.
I think you're right.
I think it starts with this one.
I think I've got everything twisted around, but
so I did do the research. No, I'm just...
yeah, I know
you did more research.
I know you did.
Here's my research. I got lucky, but I literally just had my computer read me the Wikipedia page. You actually did real research, so I am just making fun of you, but I have no reason to.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah, but this movie made back like half of its budget. It didn't do well overseas at all.
I think it made 31 out of 40. So it's a little more than half.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
but it didn't make enough money. Also, fun fact, this movie had to go up against Mulan.
This movie seemed like it was influenced by Mulan.
Yes, absolutely.
Because they like fucking fired everyone. So maybe I think there was a lot of like, there was a whole thing. She was like, I don't want to wear a dress. And then it's just like, okay, so she's kind of like boyish or something. Like, and
wanna
it's like
be-
it could have been
I wanna be a
Mulan.
knight. Yeah.
But then it's like, it's just completely inconsistent.
But
and
her-
then she just kind of is like, oh, I'm gonna go do stuff. I don't know. It's just like,
here's the thing. I mean, if you're gonna compare, the characters, which why? But Kaylee, who is our main heroine in the movie, is fucking obnoxious. She won't shut up. She won't listen to anything.
I didn't find her that obnoxious.
Oh my god, she's just a nothing burger of a character, which is
She's
what
kinda
I
boring.
which is what I can say for all of these characters. It's a bunch of white bread.
They're very, yeah. I mean, like, they are somewhat. But I don't know. I found them kind of like, wouldn't necessarily describe them that way. I felt like they weren't consistent human beings.
No, they
But,
weren't
like,
consistent human
But
beings.
in like a way of like a bunch of people wrote this movie at different times, and we're like basically the studio just like puppeted a bunch of people to write this movie, which I'm pretty sure is what happened, and it shows.
So here's the thing. Yes. So here's the thing, though. This movie was originally supposed to be like a PG-13, like a dark fantasy, a la the Black Cauldron adventure. Because if you notice in the opening credits, which I had not before, but I was watching it. I actually watched this one like on my big TV, so I was like 3 inches away from the screen.
Yeah.
So I noticed in the opening credits that this is based on the book, the King's Damsel.
Very, very, very,
Very loosely.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, so what is this book? Looks up this book. Yeah, in like the first couple of chapters, we meet the main character. Her name is Wynette. She gets sexually assaulted, and then she has to go on this quest for like revenge. That I'm loosely, very paraphrasing.
Hollywood loves
that's
those.
the book. Yes, that's the book that this movie was supposed to be based on.
You
And
can
I'm
tell,
like,
though.
you cannot do that. No,
Hilarious.
this is the 90s. No.
Well, yeah, that's why there's a lot of that gets lost in this adaptation. But
You can't. It's no, but
it's funny because it's like I don't know, like Frozen gets all this fucking accolades for like exactly this. Frozen is the same as this movie. It's like it's a girl. Like,
Okay,
she doesn't
whoa.
want girl stuff.
sure, okay.
Like it's just like it's so unthought out. Like I feel like we keep telling Disney they did a great job by doing like exactly the same thing. I don't see any difference between this and Frozen
because there isn't there. Well, okay, I would posit that there are definitely differences between this and Frozen. However,
animated better.
well, that and
The waistlines.
and the characters are actually
the
different.
Frozen people they have like 2 inches of a stomach.
I know. That's a whole nother issue. Like at least these
I'm
characters,
pointing out the differences.
like at least these characters are animated, so that they don't look. They look like they could actually be
human beings. Yeah,
which
I
is-
was like, this
which
is so
really
much better than
cool.
Frozen because they could, like that was my number one thing. Is I was like, this is a better version of Frozen because they actually are human proportions that are
but
not.
You sure? But if you're comparing, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to go to bat for Disney or anything, but if you're comparing like this, they are two very different styles of animation. Like Frozen is heavily stylized animation. This is actually trying to be more realistic. But this drove me crazy because the animation is the character design is so detailed, and then it's not. People's faces in this movie don't look right
weird.
to me. I don't know why.
It has a bit of an uncanny valley. I was trying to figure out what exactly it is. I can't. But it is. But I'm like, how much of that is like the late 90s? And like they don't have the infrastructure for animating. So it's not like Disney where they've been doing it for a really long time. Like I think that probably explains it. The inconsistencies is just that like this is not, it's like what are sport metaphors? Like
You're not asking the right person.
I know, we're terrible people for this, but like it's the, I don't know, the not as good league.
Oh, like Major League versus Little League. Okay, I can
Something
do that.
like that, yeah. But this is not the Major League animator
no.
infrastructure.
It's really hard to like this movie because it wants to be Disney so bad.
Yeah.
And that holds it back. Like it could totally have been its own thing. The inclusion of Garrett, who's a blind hermit who is awesome.
Yeah, we should talk about him.
We should talk about him. Who is awesome and lives in the forest. That's so cool. And that was something
Disney would never do.
Right. I didn't see my first disabled character in a Disney movie until Hunchback of Notre Dame. who was a main
Which
character.
my family loved Hunchback of Notre
Hunchback of
Dame.
Notre Dame
I
is
don't
a
remember
great-
a time without that movie. but
Hunchback
yes.
is great. I don't care. Like, it has major tonal problems. I don't
Sure it does.
fucking
I
care.
don't really
Hunchback
remember.
is an amazing movie. And
Wait, okay, so Iron Giant and Hunchback of Notre Dame, does this say something about my family that these were their, like, touchstones?
it says that your family is awesome.
Okay. I was just Mulan, I guess, was my main one.
And Mulan is also awesome. I mean, I would much rather spend hours of my life with Mulan than Kaylee.
Yeah, it is so funny. Kaylee and what's her mom? Deborah's. I mean, her name's
Juliana.
not Deborah. Juliana.
Deborah! Kaylee and Lady Deborah. No, Juliana is her name. Oh,
But they're both such like a 90s like it's such like a white, you know, it's like a soccer mom and her daughter names. They're just like so out of place in that world.
and because what I heard was when they were redoing all of this stuff, when they had to
they changed her name.
they changed all the names, and these were names of like people on the production staff's
Of course
kids.
they were, because they're
whatever.
the names of children in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's just so weird.
I always thought that was off. Like, her name is Kaylee.
Camelot. It's just like the most 90s name ever. It's so weird.
Which, again, Kaylee is a great name. There's nothing wrong with the name Kaylee.
But
It's
it's not appropriate.
it's not. I mean, Garrett makes more sense than Kaylee.
Yeah,
because
Garrett's still pretty weird, but like
it is pretty weird because at least like
Arthur, that feels right.
Arthur, because it's King
No, I
Arthur.
know.
Even Juliana, I'm like,
Yeah, Juliana is still
okay.
I just imagine them all like at the mall in like a tank top, like a pink tank top, and it's just I couldn't stop.
oh my god. Well, so where do you think they got Ruber from?
Yeah, Rupert is also, I didn't include any of the descriptions of the movie that involve that name because it just is such a weird name, and the voice that reads them would just say it in a way where I was like, what is she talking about?
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh right, his name is Rupert. Like, but it just sounds like she's pronouncing a word wrong.
Right, right.
And then she just keeps going, and then I'm like, oh right, somebody who didn't see this movie would be like, what the fuck is she talking about? Yeah, Rupert, no idea.
Ruber, yeah, Ruber.
Is it with
And-
a B?
Yes, it's a B,
Okay.
like rubber, but
Because
it's
I was thinking
Ruber.
it was Rupert without the T,
And
but no,
so-
it's Ruber.
Yeah, I heard many things. I heard Rupert. I heard Ruber, but Ruber is his name.
Ruber.
Or Ruger is another one I kept hearing.
Ruger
I would
sounds more
replace-
like a name.
Right, I
That
would-
is like a cartoon villain. Ruger, I could see being a cartoon villain.
Oh, I just I hate his design.
I do too. I
I'm
feel
sorry.
kinda
Like
bad.
I feel really bad, especially
Don't
now
worry.
having watched the animator talk about it on YouTube, and like he worked very hard on it, and he got to do whatever he wanted, which was really cool. What a great opportunity.
Well, maybe they should have reeled him in a
I
little
hate
bit.
his design. I hate everything about him. He's
I don't
like
really like him. I also just hate his character because his character, it's just like the worst
boring.
villain idea of like, this villain wants all the money for no reason and wants to like destroy everything and is evil, and his whole thing is that he's evil, and when his justification for everything is, well, I'm an evil guy. I'm evil. And you're just like what?
Even so, I kept comparing him to Rothbart from the Swan Princess because that's another R name that I got confused.
Yeah.
Even Rothbart has more of a tiny bit more of a backstory than Ruber does, and
he just
Rothbart's
shows up.
backstory isn't any good either.
It's like he shows up, everyone's like, Knights of the Round Table, let's do UBI, we're all gonna be like happy together and like socialism, and he's like, but socialism,
I know.
socialism doesn't leave room for me to have all the money.
He's like, well, I need more land than everybody else, and we're
And
like,
they're like,
okay, why?
And he's just
I
like,
don't
I don't
care.
know. Just do.
I'm gonna commit regicide in the middle of the Knights of the Round Table. I'm just like, no,
It's so funny.
no. Although, I must say the opening song of this film kind of slaps. I liked it.
But I have trouble with musicals. They everything will blur together in my head. But these songs aren't that bad for that. They do kind of have some.
They're not horrible. Well, there's no excuses for his villain song. It's awful, and the dragon song is also awful.
Isn't his villain song also like a little bit of a weird editing? Like it's just you're kind of like, what's going on?
So it's like, okay, here's what watching his villain song, listening to his villain song is like watching an improviser try to rap.
Yeah.
It's either gonna be amazing or they're gonna go down in flames.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
He goes, well, is there flames? It's kind of like okay, so he like all his henchmen. I feel like we should talk about the blind character every last
I know there's just so much to talk about.
I know you're like, this could be a short one. I'm like, I don't know.
No,
There's
you're
a lot
right.
to talk
You're
about.
right. There's so much to talk about. Oh my god. Okay. So his henchmen.
Yeah, they're just all like, I guess they're it's kind of like Beauty and the Beast, I guess, because it's like all of the like, these are just the or like the Wizard of Oz also does this, where it's like these are all the just normal people, and then they're turned into like these weird. You have the bird that's like obviously just made for toys because it's like a bird with like what is it called?
An axe.
An axe.
He was everywhere
and my
too.
axe.
And my axe. His name is Blade Beak.
Wait,
Also,
that's his name?
that's his name. I adore the way Gary Oldman says his name when he comes out of the fire for the first time. He's like, "Behold, Blade Beak," and I'm like, "This movie's fantastic."
I'm surprised his name isn't like Taylor or Chad or something.
No, it's Blade Beak. Oh, voiced by Jaleel White of Steve Urkel and Sonic the Hedgehog fame.
Wow.
Because unfortunately, I didn't
Ben Schwartz.
I didn't grow up with Steve Urkel. I grew up with Sonic the Hedgehog, so that's why I recognize his voice.
But not Ben Schwartz either. Not that Sonic the
No,
Hedgehog.
no. Oh, Ben Schwartz, he's so good. Anyway, yeah, no, the animated Sonic. You should look up some clips on YouTube. It's pretty hysterical.
That's yeah. I've never I don't know a lot about the Sonic the Hedgehog mythos.
I can't say as I do. I'm not an expert, but my brother and I adored the animated Sonic stuff.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's Blade Beak. Blade Beak.
Who
Great name.
just every time he was on screen, I just sighed. Just like,
so funny.
I don't care.
He was kind of Olaf. I feel like this is just Frozen.
Yeah, but Olaf is funny. Olaf.
Is he?
Okay.
I think
Olaf,
I actually like this more than Frozen.
Olaf has the potential to be funny. Olaf is funny in small doses.
I don't think so. That's fine.
Okay, but who would you rather spend time with, Olaf or Blade Beak?
He's just so weird. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed this. I like that it's just like such a, I don't know, this is kind of like the like crib version of a Disney movie. Like it's so imperfect. It's so all over the place, but it's like but there's something so endearing about it. Like, and like some of it is just like you just like can't take your eyes off of it because you're like, what is happening?
What is going on?
But it's like, I don't know, it's in a way that's a lot more like I mean, granted I am on the very extreme end of not liking Frozen because everyone loves it and I don't.
Sure.
But like, so this is kind of an imbalanced thing. But there's something about Frozen where there's a pristineness to it, and like, I guess I'm like, I have a weird thing where I don't like things that are too pristine and like polished that are trying to be like feminist or something, because I'm like, no, this is like the man is like behind this. I don't know. There's just this, it's a certain vibe. Whereas this is just like, what the fuck is happening?
Sure.
And granted, like the way that it was made does not, like, you should not model any other movies on that. You should not make movies where the studio fired or like I think they left. I think someone was fired and then a lot of them left. It was like it was a lot of drama.
That's exactly what happened. They were fired a bunch of people, and then some other people were just like, you know what? No, and then they left.
Right. Which is not. Don't do that. That's not good, guys. Like that's not. I don't think we should like emulate that. But the product is just kind of more fun to me.
I guess it's just harder for me because I drank the Disney Kool-Aid a long time ago. Like I'm older now, and I can realize, you know, business practices and like there's some really shady stuff going on at the House of Mouse. So I can think critically.
He's a Nazi. I mean, I don't know if he's a Nazi. I just think it's funny to say that.
Okay, sure, yeah. It's also funny to say like his head is frozen somewhere inside of Disneyland.
Wow,
it's not.
I hope so.
It's really not. But
it's in the statue with him and Mickey Mouse.
I always thought it was in the Magic Kingdom castle, but I don't want to think about that. Anyway, What was I saying?
Sorry, I derailed
No,
you.
it's okay. So I've grown up enough now where I can critically think about Disney and about what they're the idealized femininity that they're presenting to girls, which is not good. And so like I definitely can think critically about Disney. However, you can't watch this and not think about Disney. It's just not. I mean, obviously the dragons are literally making jokes at Disney, like in their song, which is so shameless and bad.
They're so weird.
I hate them.
It's
I hate
not
them
good.
so much.
It's their introduction is like with a weird incest joke, and you're
my
like,
God.
what is happening?
It's just not. I mean, not gonna lie, I chuckled because I thought Eric Idle's delivery on that line was great, but it's also Eric Idle. It's Monty Python. I'm gonna laugh, but
There's like
I hated
weird,
it.
like there's super weird, like what is it, gay panic, like
oh my God,
stuff
yes.
that it's just like, what is happening?
Because like the two they kiss at one point and then that
Which
oh
also,
that's
like,
so gross.
aren't they like technically conjoined siblings?
Yes,
So
so
it's like
they're-
it doesn't even. It's like that's gay panic making it just completely even more.
It would be like
just weird.
It would be like a pair
Conjoined
twins kissing.
Is
I don't know.
that- Yeah.
I don't know.
Right, which is like weird, and but then it's like treated like yeah, I mean,
joke.
obviously it's a joke, and then it's like gay panic, and you're like, this just none of this needs to be like. First of all, obviously none of it needs to be in there. It's completely fucked up.
I can also point to one line that says that this movie did not age very well.
Which one?
Nobody likes a flame R-word dragon.
Yeah,
I had to stop and rewind because I was like, did I hear what I think I just heard? Yes, I did.
Yeah,
Because I thought he said retardant.
yeah,
with a
which
T,
is the joke,
which would be the joke, but he didn't. There's no T on the end of that word.
Gotta love 98.
Isn't that great?
What you could get away with then.
So much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you could theoretically do a funny thing with those characters, maybe, sort of, but they, like, just do so many offensive things with them. They are, like,
They're
like,
also,
and then they're sort of queer-coded anyway,
mhm.
but then there's also, like, they get, like, it's just, like, no, come back to the drawing board,
they're
guys.
also making, they are this movie's incredibly shitty attempt to make the genie. After Robin Williams did that, everybody wanted this crazy character who spouts pop culture non sequiturs and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do, and they do it poorly.
It's so funny, though.
So
But that is not, like, I don't like that. If you're going to create a world, it really undercuts it to, like, just make a bunch of culture. Like, that always bothered me. Like, I'm like, come on, guys, you can do... It just seems so cheap to be like, oh, haha, this doesn't belong here. And it's like, yeah, you just, like, you're... Like, if you're going to do a fantasy, that's just, like, the cheapest fucking joke you could possibly do. The joke is, like, this is not the right time for this.
yeah, I understand. I get that. I totally understand what you're saying, and I wish I could tell you why Robin Williams' performance as the genie works, because it does. And
I forgot that he did that, so
Yeah.
I guess it worked enough for me that I don't remember. But it could have been that I haven't seen it in so long, so it could have gone over my head when I was a kid. So I don't know,
but hoy boy, it's
so
hate
and there's
them.
a lot about
I
them
hate them.
being airplane jokes, or like the joke is like airplanes don't exist, so why would they be saying
And
something
then-
about frequent flyers?
Right. So they make all those airplane jokes, and then at the end of the movie during the battle, like when the dragon conveniently drops Garrett off, and Kaylee's like, "What took you so long?" And fucking Carrie Elwes turns to the camera and goes, "I had to fly coach." You don't know what that means.
Well, and there's just like, it doesn't make any sense how many, there's like 10 jokes about airplanes, and like all of them are just like, haha, airplanes don't exist in this world,
Right,
but we're talking like they do.
The shitty dragon can make that joke because he's the one who makes all the pop culture jokes or whatever. But it makes no sense for Carrie Elwes' character to say that. He doesn't know what it means.
But there's also like 10 jokes that the entire premise is just like, this is something that's said on an airplane. This is something related to airplanes.
Right, because it's the
This was before 9/11, but yeah, they still had
Okay,
so many
cool.
airplane specifics.
Oh my god.
This is before TSA. Like, they could have done way more if they just waited 4 years to make this movie. They could have been like, you've been randomly assigned to be searched. You can't have a water bottle on this flight.
I kind of understand why, you know, the jokes are made because they're trying to get away from the bad guys and the dragons can't fly, but yet, you know, we're going to fly away from the bad guys, so let's make a bunch of airplane jokes because that's what's happening.
But they're not flying at that time, so it's also like doesn't even work anyway because they're not flying, and so they're making jokes about flying.
And maybe that's the comedy, is we're going to make a bunch of jokes about this one thing that we really should be doing, but we can't do. So it's juxtaposition.
Except for they're like, put your tray tables up.
I know.
It's like really like they're not like double entendres or anything. They're literally just saying things that get said.
I think we're just gonna circle around this point.
It's so funny. It's just so weird how many of them there are.
It's annoying and it's terrible, and make better jokes.
It's just so much. Like, it's one thing if that was one joke, but they do like 10 of these references, and they start with being like, Houston, we have a problem, which isn't even airplanes.
Right.
There's
rocket ships. So
but then no more rocket related. There's no like count. They just say Houston, we have a problem, and then they say put your trays and tables up and like you know, make sure that you've stowed your bag. Like, they're just so funny. Yeah, so that's the humor you're gonna get with this movie.
Okay, so let's finally, let's talk about Garrett.
Yeah,
we meet him. Kaylee meets him. She gets away from the bad guy and his mechanical monsters. Rupert. Sorry, Rupert. I see. I even put
Rupert
a T.
Grint.
I even put a T on it. Oh my god, no! Because now, and he has red hair. Now all I can think about is Rupert Grint in like Gary Oldman, and it's weird. Okay. Anyway, so she gets away. She gets the Forbidden Forest. Of course, she almost gets captured again, but a falcon named Aiden and Garrett save her. Yeah, and there's one of those other falcons named Aiden. You know, they're a dime a dozen.
Classic falcon name.
Aiden. Actually, I have a dear friend whose name is Aiden, so yeah. I like the.
Were they born like in the early 90s or late like 80s?
I don't know. I didn't meet Aiden until I moved to Portland. So.
Well, I mean, you don't need to know someone when they were born to know to figure out when they were born. Well, how are they the same age as you?
No, they're a little older.
Okay. So I guess maybe that's a little out of the... But I've definitely known a bunch of Aidens. They're all like a few years older than me.
Okay.
But all it's right. Like I can't... I mean, I'm sure there were a bunch of like, you know, people in elementary school when this movie came out that were named Aiden, because a lot of them would have been in elementary school. So the thing about them naming all the characters after their children of the animators really checks out with Aiden.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, so we have Aiden and Garrett.
Aiden and Garrett. And Garrett, of course, saves Kaylee from the monsters by dispatching them. And, you know, I mean, the first and the most coolest thing that I really like about Garrett, about his portrayal, is he uses a cane.
Yeah, he uses a real cane.
And he uses it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Which it's funny because like the canes are like, on this podcast we've learned that like guide dogs have been around forever, we think, probably, but like actually the cane is slightly newer, though. I was thinking like the cane, he doesn't have like a white cane, he has
it's a walking stick.
A walking stick. Yeah. So I was like, I bet people also use walking sticks as canes way back when. Like, it does make sense. But yeah, his cane doesn't do that cool thing where you can like undo the strap and then like let it go flying. It's definitely not a modern cane, but you know, it's kind of nice to have like see a character in that era that has a real cane.
Right. And
that's an era appropriate cane.
Yeah. And the way that he fights is he and Aiden have this symbiotic relationship, and Aiden will caw and squawk and make noise.
Yeah, he basically is a cane and a seeing eye falcon.
Yes. Yeah.
It's ideal. It's a really good setup.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And because he has such a great relationship with Aiden and with the forest itself, because this forest is very much alive. Everything in the forest can kill you.
Yeah.
There's grass that is angry and can hurt you. So he just has this amazing relationship with this forest, and he gets to sing a little song about that.
So his thing is I'm a recluse. Is that would that be the right term? He's like,
hang on, I'm gonna look up the lyrics to this or the first part, because I can actually probably sing this song.
Oh yeah, you were just gonna have you sing all of it.
If you would like me to.
Yeah, do it. I think this is better than playing the clips.
Okay, hang on. Let me find it, because I was not anticipating this. I just know the prayer. I can just offhandedly be like, yeah, I know that song. Hang on, let me just, So yeah, he sings this amazing song about how he stands alone in the forest and how Kaylee can't come with him and everything. And it's like, like every tree stands on its own, reaching for the sky, I stand alone. I share my world with no one else, all by myself, I stand alone.
Nice. A sped up version, but great for the
it was very sped up. I also tried to make it sound 90s.
Yeah, no, that was very good. I like
you.
this.
Thank you.
Yeah, so he's a very
Independent.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I was like, wow, this is real bootstrap mentality, like very internalized ableism. Some weird, it's interesting. It's like, I'm like, what is the political leanings? It's like, it's sort of like an argument for socialism.
Sure.
It's sort of like individualism doesn't work, and like,
Here's my counterpoint to that. We learn his backstory. We learn that he was in a horrible accident and blinded, and that Kaylee's father, Sir Lionel, helped him learn to get back on his feet and did mobility training, basically. And then somehow he just ends up in the forest.
Well, because society like was mean to him. I think he like just experienced ableism is kind of what's implied.
Yeah, and then
well, because her father dies, and so I think after that he doesn't have an ally, and he just and I read it as he experienced ableism to the point that he decided, fuck it. I mean, okay, not to like put spoilers to Legend of Korra right now,
right? But here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Like, what is that like with this? I mean, like it's not like that big spoilers. But like, why is it that our blind characters wind up in the middle of the forest, isolated from everyone?
Oh, good. I figured you'd pick up on that too, because I was like, he's toph pulling a Toph. However, Toph ended up where she ended up by choice.
He did too. I mean, you never really. I mean, I don't think.
But Toph wasn't like exiled from society.
Well,
Toph is just.
I mean, like
very solitary.
Right, but I read his character in a very similar way. I didn't think he was like, I felt like he just experienced like kind of, I saw him as experiencing implicit ableism. That's kind of like, what we experience. And then like his solution to that, instead of like trying to fight it, is to like isolate himself, which also is like an impulse I understand as well. Like I was like, I kind of, and so I don't know how much of it was projecting, but like I was like, okay, well, so he must have just like experienced enough ableism that he just felt like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, but he did, like, it's hard to say how much of that is through choice and through like societal expectations on you. But like, it just bums me out, because I feel like that's the most dangerous thing for a blind person to do. Or, I mean, like mental health wise, it's like a very, because it's a reaction to oppression that is a self-protective, it's like addiction or something. It's like the most maladaptive like trauma response. Not to say anything about like that it's simply not his fault. I didn't read it that way, but like it felt really sad, because I was like, that is the saddest, like I mean, it wasn't an ending, but like if it it's sort of the saddest ending to a character experiencing this blind ableism, because especially for like blind people, we have our connection to the outside world through conversation and people, and like to take that away from us feels extremely extreme, and to be at the point where you have to go away from that is like a deeply depressing place that I think could happen, but there's no happiness in that. Like that's it just seems so deeply depressing to me, because that's a response of like, the world has just fucked me over so holistically that I am done.
And I guess I just wanted a more concrete reason as to exactly why he ended up in the forest. I suppose I was just mad because these characters are here, but they're all half-baked and no one is developed, and no one has a decent a very decent backstory, except for Kaylee and
Yeah.
kind of Garrett. I mean, at least
But
they have
that's the
some
weird thing is,
semblance of
like,
backstories.
I think the comparison between Garrett and Toph is like, I was like, is this a thing? Like, is this, like, what is this coming from? And like, I feel like we
Right.
should probably figure that out.
blind hermits in the woods who just want to
Yeah.
be away from society because society bad.
Right.
But both Garrett and Toph are super capable people who
Right.
could totally function in society
Yeah.
with no problem.
Right. And so, but they're choosing this, but it doesn't feel like they're choosing it from a place of, like, 'cause sometimes you hear people are like, I just really like being alone on my own. And you're like, I can't even wrap my head around this, but you have that kind of personality. But I just don't, I think with these blind characters, it doesn't feel that way because it's like those stories of people who just decide to go off into the woods are rarely disabled people. They're
Right,
usually
and they-
fully
and
able
they
people.
die,
Yeah, and they
usually.
die. Yeah. Like,
See into the wild.
Yeah, into the wild.
They
Yeah,
die.
exactly.
But okay, I mean, I guess as someone who is a very introverted extrovert,
Ambivert, yeah.
yeah,
Me too.
I do enjoy my alone time.
Me too. I think most blind people are
Right.
ambiverts to some extent.
Yeah, I'm not saying I want to fuck off into the forest and never come back, but also, I don't know, I kind of get it.
Well,
I guess.
that's the thing, though, is like that I think, I mean, I'm also ambiverted. I don't know if that is, I don't know if it is something about blindness, because I do think I know almost entirely ambiverted blind people. I have no idea, though. But, like, I think that, so I relate to that as well. And so that's the problem, though, is that, like, when you are ambiverted and you want to both be in social situations and solitude and have a good mix, like, I think, and then you also deal with oppression. If you lean so hard into the solitude, that's coming from it's coming from a place of feeling completely abandoned. I feel like, it's like coming from a place of a defending against abandonment is the way I read it, of like saying, but I don't know. Like, I just think that it's not, everyone needs human beings. Even very
Sure,
introverted
absolutely.
people do. Like, and I do think that maybe why I know mostly blind ambiverted people is because we really thrive off like one-on-one conversation. Like, that's a very, very like good social interaction for us. Parties are stressful. Like, it's too many people. It's like you don't know who anyone is, and like it's hard to like really parse what, there's a lot of noise and that's hard to track, and it's just kind of overwhelming a lot of the time. So that's kind of not as fun. But then like you want to be able to you want to have your own space because you want to be able to put things somewhere, and you want them to stay where they are. Like,
Well, and
there's all these things that are nice about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're alone or with a friend who really understands you, no one's questioning you about how you operate and how you function,
Right. You don't
and
have
about
to
how you
explain.
do things. You do things because you do them this way.
Right.
And sometimes being alone is really nice because you can just stretch out and do what you do in the way that you do it, and no one
has to. But
you don't have to explain yourself
all
to
of
anybody.
those are coming from a place of like, this is how I cope with ableism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those are both like, other people are shitty. Like, the other people could change. Like, we just are the ones
Sure.
that are having to accommodate them at that point.
I think isolation is necessary. Maybe not for everybody.
Right,
But
right.
but it's definitely, for me, it's definitely necessary. I need to be alone for a little while, for a day or a couple hours or whatever. But yeah, it is this really weird trend. and I don't know if it's even a trend, because we can cite like these
These
movies,
are the two,
but it's I mean, the hermit as an archetype is, the wise person who has gone away from society and has so become enlightened by doing so.
Right. Which I guess sometimes you do have those characters have a little tinge of that as well.
They're the wise person in the forest.
Right. But yeah, I feel like it's...
Well, I think it would have made much more sense, and I would have enjoyed the plot better, if Kaylee were the force, the person that that helped him reintegrate into society, rather than we're in love. Like, like 20 minutes into their relationship, because they have no chemistry together.
Yeah, it's definitely...
She's annoying, and he's much better, but...
Yeah.
She's annoying. She's annoying.
It's true. I mean, I think that like the relationship's very thrown together
They
in the
have.
end. And like,
Yeah.
because, well, and you also, I think it's because you don't start with like a very concrete justification for him being isolated as well. Like the fact that, like what you were saying about how they don't give a good enough reason for that. And then the fact, so it makes it so the stakes of him like reintegrating into society are muddled, because you're like, well, but yeah, what was the thing that caused him to be so isolationist? We don't really ever find out.
Right, because I mean, he gets there and he's just doing his thing and helping Kaylee and helping the resistance and everything, and nope, not one person is questioning, you know, oh, you're blind, ew, you know, nobody shies away from him because he's a blind person. I mean, they friggin' get married and knighted at the end, and nobody is like, you can't do that, or on the opposite, oh my god, we never thought a blind person could do that. Wow.
Well,
none of that happens.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, cool, but you know,
It's weird though, because it's also like it has a very like Rudolphy vibe of like, you ostracized him enough that he like felt so
that's true.
so unsafe in this situation that he went into the forbidden forest that is the forest trying to kill anyone there. So like obviously this guy is trying to get as far away from the society as possible if this is the place he finds solace in. So they had to be pretty shitty to him, like. And then he saved, you know, you save China or whatever, you know, like he saves the day. They saved the day together, sort of. Like,
sort of, kind of, yeah. I mean, he definitely.
they're a team.
They're a team. He definitely helps and helps so that Kaylee can get to the round table and defeat the villain and everything. Oh, okay.
He drives.
And he does drive. We even get the cliched, oh my god, the blind person is driving scene. So many cliches.
Why?
We get the cliched love song about like, I want to see through your eyes.
Oh, that was so bad.
I hate that song. Everybody's like, actually, that song is pretty good. And that was the song that they played on the radio. Like, it wasn't necessarily the prayer that they were playing on the radio.
Wow.
It was this song. And I'm just like, I do not like this song. It's fine on its own as like a love ballad, but when you take it in the context of this movie, it just is sour.
It's weird.
Hate it.
Like, why would your partner, I mean, I don't know. There's one, I'm always like, that's kind of cute. Because you're like, I like the idea of like, it's not like the romanticness of both of them seeing through each other's eyes, that it's like, there's an equity inherent in
there's
that.
An understanding and an empathy and
that, like, I think that is, you want a partner that like, as a blind person, you want a partner that's like, if they're sighted, going to be very willing to see the world from their eyes. Like, that's cute. Like, and then it's not just like he's seeing the world from her eyes. Like, that would be way more problematic.
Right. And then they have this cute little, like, she's trying to learn how to spar and fight like he does. And I mean,
yeah, which is cute.
It is nice that she never tries to patronize him.
Yeah.
You know, she's never like, I'm the sighted person now, don't worry about it, I got you. Like, everything you learned in the forest, everything you
He's really
learned in the
only
forest
underestimated by the villain, which is kind of like, yeah. Which, I mean, like, granted, probably unrealistic, but it's funny because, like, who was ostracized? Now the more I think, it's funny, it bothered me less watching the movie because I was like, yeah, ableism, duh. But I'm like, so we have this socialist, like, they're going after this, like, you know, fascist guy that wants to take over everything, but he, like, went away for a while. Like fucking Garrett ran away during the time of, like, peace and socialism. So what, like...
The timeline makes no sense. Because it's like, it's like 10 years, but there's nothing that says, like, 10 years later, or there's nothing to suggest that time has passed, except
they're older.
Except for they're older and her father's death. So I'm just like,
but her father dies at the beginning of the time period, I would think, right?
Yes.
I mean, we don't really know how much time, because we see the first scene, we meet him and her, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna be a knight someday.
And
which, I mean, it's
you're not, you're a woman.
But see, I don't know, I feel like this is like sort of like as ham-fisted as something like Frozen. With just like, but I mean, like, Disney doesn't even do disabled characters, so it's not even like, it does, like, so he was also getting the, like, woman in a Disney movie treatment, which was, like, I don't know, kind of nice, because Disney's not even willing to do any disabled characters. So it's like, I mean, you know, I don't, like, it's not my brand of feminism at all. I mean, my brand of feminism isn't a brand at all. It's really, there's no corporate backing behind it, whereas Disney is definitely very corporate, but, like, don't really get that kind of feminism of like, well, she doesn't need a man. And it's like, okay, but what about like what if like she had an equal partnership with someone else?
I would have
who cares what gender they are?
Right.
You know, like that's more interesting.
I would have much preferred like a Pacific Rim style ending to this, where they both become knights and they both go off in a mutual friendship because they've been through trauma together, and they both go off and they're knights. I don't understand what being married has anything to do with anything.
Right.
Why do they have to get married?
I guess for me, I don't mind that stuff if you're going to also have queer relationships as a big part of that. I think it's a problem when it's always cishet relationships. I think it's nice for kids to have a variety of examples of how. I think that's really healthy to show kids a variety of relationship, like romantic relationship types, and as long as it's not all cishet. I just get annoyed when it's all very cishet. That's annoying.
So here's where my growing up with Disney comes into play. Every relationship is that.
Yeah,
every relationship
except for Mulan.
Except for Mulan, sorry. The girl finds her, and in the first Frozen, I'm sorry. The girl finds her.
Because they don't date anyone, right? Isn't that the end?
Well, I mean, Anna and Kristoff get together, but the key relationship in the movie is Elsa and Anna's relationship.
They're sisters. They're not sisters. They're not friends. So it's not like they're a couple or anything. No. They're sisters.
But when all you've seen are those type of relationships, the princess finds the prince or the prince finds the princess, and then at the end they get married and they live happily ever after. When that's the bulk of what you're seeing, because that was the bulk of what I saw.
Right.
And now all of that stuff just rubs me the wrong way. I feel that. Marriage is marriage, and if you want to show marriage, a queer marriage or a cishet marriage, that's also fine too. I'm just like, there are so many other stories that we could tell, and there are so many other endings of these stories that we could tell.
It doesn't have to end with a marriage.
Right.
Well, and I think that, like, yeah, if you have a cishet relationship, you want it to end with a thing where, like, the marriage is not really... they don't even need to get married. If you have a relationship where it's more about the equity between the two people, I think that's the best way to do cishet.
It comes out of fucking nowhere, though. That's my
what I and it's like, I guess there's some equity in that. It's a disabled like man and a woman at a time where women did not have a lot of rights. So I guess there's kind of, they're both society fucks with them both, except for it's like a utopian society. So in the end, they're never gonna be fucked with again, I guess. But like, there's, I mean. So it's like, I don't know, that could theoretically be cute. I don't I think what I get frustrated with is I don't think just not having a relationship is progress. It's just like, okay, sure, this is another kind of story, but to say it's progress is offensive. I mean, even having like true queer characters that are very like canonically queer in the same way you have canonically cishet like characters. I think that, I mean, I even though in some ways I'm like, well, yeah, duh, we should have had this a long time ago. I think it's technically progress. Like, that would be progress. That would be nice to see, and it would be nice to see most of these movies be that. None of them are that, though. There's no real queer relationship, and I'd much rather see a queer relationship than I would just no one dates each other. Like, I don't care if no one dates. There's a bunch of movies that aren't about people dating each other. Like, I'd much rather actually see. It's just the like, we should get cookies for not having these characters date anyone. It's like, no, you don't get cookies for that. You don't get fucking cookies for not having your characters date someone. That's not feminism. Like, it's not feminism that they just don't date anyone. That's like, you have to do a lot more than that. You can't just not have a thing. Like, it's just, progress is not just not doing a thing. Like, if you say really racist stuff and then you stop saying it, I mean, like, I guess it's sort of progress, but it's like, you gotta do a lot more than that. Like, that's not, like, it's, you really shouldn't even get any acknowledgement for doing that. Like, you're at your base level. Like, I don't like congratulating people for that they didn't do something. I don't know. It's,
and I suppose I've gotten to a point now where I would rather watch a queer relationship or no relationship at all.
Yeah, well, I guess I would also. I just want them all to be queer relationships.
Sure. Because I mean, it's all growing up, that's what I thought was normal. What I saw was normal was a guy and a gal, that type of relationship. And I know there's so much more. There's so many different kinds of relationships. And
well, and the power imbalance too. Like there's always a weird power imbalance, and I think that that's part of the problem. Is they're not just cishet, they're also like cishet with a like weird power dynamics. Like, and that's the thing that really bothers me too.
I guess it's cool at the end of this movie that they're
kind of less
equal.
power dynamics.
There really aren't that.
Well, because one of them's just you get two different oppressed groups, so it's better than some of the like real. It's not Sleeping Beauty or whatever.
Right. Well, and so one of these things that happened at the end of this movie really stuck in people's sides, like a thorn in their side. So, and I think we'll have a very different opinion on this than them. So. They have the final fight at Camelot. There's the climax with the battle and everything, and they trick Ruber into putting I can't think of a better word into putting the sword back in the stone.
Right, because then it's locked.
Because it's locked back in the stone, I guess. Because
Arthur's the only one who can take it out. It's the whole thing.
Right. Okay. So by this
makes sense to me.
Sure. All right. So by this point, Ruber has magically enchanted the sword so that it stays on his arm. So he has a blade hand. Cool, I guess. I don't know. That's very 90s to me. Like, it's extreme. You know,
so ridiculous. Yeah.
It's crazy. Anyway, point is he stabs the stone and everything goes, the magic healing ray happens and he disintegrates and everything goes back to normal. Woo, woo, woo. And the thing that people are so upset about is Garrett doesn't get his sight back.
What?
Yep.
People are upset about that?
They're like, I don't understand.
I think that in a million years that would happen.
Yeah. They're like, I don't understand why the sword healed everything and changed everything back to the way it was supposed to be.
It's actually really nice and progressive. It's really refreshing.
Yes. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. He doesn't become sighted. He stays blind.
I forgot that could even be a potential thing, because why the fuck would that ever be a thing? That would be so offensive.
Right. Because like he's learned to accept himself and maybe the magic can just sense that or whatever. But
I mean, yeah, or maybe like the magic. Well, because, because the horses were like during a fire. Was that fire like
No, it's never stated why the fire happened. He says there was a fire and I was trying to get out of the stable and I was kicked in the head by a horse.
I was like, oh no, Melissa, trampling.
Yeah, I know. That was not fun.
Well, they trample in and got kicked in the eye. Your two least favorite things.
I'm like, please, no. But yeah, he fell over, got trampled, and got kicked in the head by a horse. So he lost. That's how he lost his vision. But it's never stated why this thing happened. It just happened.
Right. So the fire could have been during socialism.
Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, so then it would truly make literally no sense at all as everything goes back to normal.
Or back then everything was built and covered in thatch. And all you needed to do was look at it funny just to make it start on fire.
Fires are like, we are so lucky to live now, because we would like literally be burned. We would literally burn in a fire. That would be how we died if we weren't living in the last
probably.
I mean, we're like, sadly, we're like going to live in this country at this point, because it's really like fires are serious. They're fucking serious. They have killed historically many people, especially during the beginning of industrialization. Is like actually probably created even more fires. But still, fire safety is a pretty new thing. So, yeah, it is like, fires are not, the villain didn't necessarily cause the fire, the fires just happen. So it is, but it's funny because it is kind of unclear we hear his backstory, we hear how he becomes blind, but it's very out of context, it's very funny. But yeah, so funny,
strange, not funny, haha.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love when movies don't work, and they make notes, when things went wrong is one of my favorite things. I love it. But yeah, so everything that goes back to normal is just stuff destroyed by Rupert Grin or whatever.
Or nice. It's destroyed or changed. So everyone who took the potion gets to be normal again. They get to have the weapons unfused from their bodies. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all things that were very, very obviously because of Rupert, whatever the fuck his name is. He everything that goes back to normal are directly caused by him.
True. Yeah.
So, and we have, like, it was just a fire and a horse trampling that was completely out of context was what Garrett went blind from. So why the fuck would why would that affect him? Why would this affect him at all?
I think that's a really good bit of logic. And that's what I thought about when all these people on YouTube that I watched were like, he should get his sight back. I'm like, no, because I don't think magic works in that way. Arthur gets his arm healed, but his arm was broken by Ruger. Damn it.
Whatever his
Ruber
name. We don't have
and
to say his name, right? It's a dumb name.
Also, side note, watching Ruber abuse his griffin made me sad and very upset.
That was like really, truly
I did not
good.
enjoy that. He hurts this poor griffin, and this poor griffin is just trying to be a griffin and do a good job.
Yeah, he's just trying to like do what is best. It's really upsetting.
It's very
like
upsetting.
truly upsetting.
It
We're
was
like,
really
oh my god, this is
upsetting.
like a children's movie. This is not.
And he's like
cool.
always pulling
It's like
on
super
He's
abusive.
always pulling on this poor thing's ears, and at one point he grabs like his eyelid and yanks it up, and I'm just like,
It's
stop.
it's like pretty hardcore
Just
abuse.
stop.
Like
it's
really
it's
upsetting.
really sad. It's not funny, and I think it's played for laughs, and it's not funny.
Yeah, it's really disturbing and like, yeah, just very like that's the problem with this villain is he has no motivation, and sometimes he'll just have flashes like this is like really like just abuse. It's like really disturbing and like feels like it is kind of played for like it's not given the space that like it should have.
No, and
for,
the
like
griffin
how
and the griffin
legit
doesn't
abuse it is.
Right, and the griffin doesn't have a redemption arc either. Like the griffin
No.
doesn't get to come over and be good or whatever, or get one over on Ruber. You know, the griffin just gets chased by the dragons who can suddenly breathe fire and fly because cooperation or some shit.
Yeah, it's oh my god, yeah.
Before we keep going, the editing in this movie is awful. The song,
Things?
Oh God, the songs are just kind of shoehorned in.
Oh yeah.
They don't know how to begin or exit a song like in an actual musical.
Yeah, they're not very good at that.
Scenes will just end without
that
being
didn't
resolved.
It's weird because sometimes those will bother me. I didn't really notice it as much in this because I think there was just enough wrong that I was already I mean maybe you're actually right and I was just too distracted by other things that were wrong.
I don't know why it just stood out to me like a sore thumb on this particular viewing, but oh my god, it just scenes just stopped and ended, and then they would insert these little weird scenes for no reason, and I'm like, we could have excised all of this and this movie could be over sooner. I don't understand why this was left in. It doesn't move the story along. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's like there were a few times I think before actually meeting Garrett I looked to be like, how long is this movie? Oh my god. Like I did that for the first that's like the first 24 minutes and I also part of me was like, there's a blind, we're gonna have enough to talk about, right? Because there's no blind character yet.
No, plenty.
But then once he gets introduced though, like because he is like in whole he's in a lot of the movie, and he also once he's introduced is in most of the scenes, so he is a major character. He just doesn't get introduced. He's one of the last characters to get introduced,
right? And my main comparison between this and Frozen, because yes, I did have a comparison, is so in Frozen, obviously spoilers for Frozen if you haven't seen it.
We're just spoiling all the things we could think to spoil.
we're gonna spoil it all. But so Kristoff decides to leave Anna at Arendelle so that Hans, her beloved, at least we think he is at this point, can take care of her. And Garrett kind of sort of does the same thing. He won't go back to Camelot with Kaylee because
he's like ableism.
Because reasons. Because ableism, yeah.
He's like, ableism, I'm a recluse, I don't like being around people.
Right. And
which is like, you obviously already know that's not true. Like, you obviously have already figured out that you're lying to yourself.
Yeah. So that was the biggest, honestly, that was the biggest comparison to Frozen for me, because immediately, and then Kaylee takes like 2 steps and gets captured, so
right. And it's kind of, it's the whole thing, it's like unfair to her because it's at a point where there's a time it's taking and like she needs to save everyone, including her mom. Like obviously it should not be choosing between those two, and his reason is just like, they were mean to me, which is like, yeah, okay, like you're disabled. Welcome to the world.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah,
of course they're mean to you. like, I'm sorry, dude, but you need to fully become a disabled person because you're not there yet.
Have some friggin' agency for yourself.
Right,
Come on, let's go.
And also the fact that like this is obviously a person that can advocate for you, and so this should change the calculus somewhat. Like literally the reason why you were okay before, why you were there, was because you had an advocate who was gonna advocate for you, her dad. Like, and now you have her, and she's gonna advocate for you. So it's like you need to like think about this logically a little bit more. That like the situation could be different. Not on top of that, like you have not like seen the journey to the end, so there's still like danger. So if anything, you just like make sure everyone's okay, like, you know, because he has a lot of skills that he can use,
Right.
Like, and so the fact that he's leaving is actually like weirdly like a kind of an aggressive move,
right,
because he's like, I'm not going to help anymore,
right. And plot wise, I hated it because it's cliche. Like, we all know he's gonna come back at the 12th hour when she needs him the most.
And it happens so quickly that he has to come back.
So, but why do we have to do this?
Yeah,
I don't
it's
understand
just
why
silly.
we have to do this. It's so cliche and it's so dumb and it's
unmotivated.
not executed properly. And
Well, but that's never executed properly because it never makes any sense.
Even when it happened in Frozen, like, the only reason I was kind of sort of not thinking it was cliche in the first Frozen is because I didn't know Hans, you know, is a twist villain, but now I know that. So every single time I go back to Frozen, it's like, oh, well, we have to go through this shit again.
Yeah,
so
it is really like, it bothers me because it is just it is a weirdly aggressive. It's so aggressive to do that. Like, it's truly abandoning someone and not trying to like work through your own issues. Like, I don't know, it just seemed weird. It always feels weirdly selfish, and also like not just selfish but also like really not even that good for him. Like, like if he went with her, he would be in a better position because he would have like more connection socially, and like would probably have higher self-esteem and would like probably be healthier and have a better life. Like, like, it's also just stupid for him, and it's also weird, on top of it being like weirdly aggressive towards her. So it's just like it just makes no sense because he's like, the whole time he knows, I guess, that he's just gonna abandon her at the end of this, but like, but then she like is obviously like, why are you doing this? But then she's also like, but I need to like get to the
right.
I can't have this conversation now. Also,
points at watch. I gotta go, bro. I really don't have time to have this conversation with you right now. Are you coming with me or are you not? Okay, bye.
It's like, this is a denouement conversation, guys. Like, this is not the time to be. This is when the danger's over that we have this kind of like, war. This is a conflict.
Right.
Once we end that conflict,
right, and then you can decide if like society isn't going to accept
right,
you or not.
And then that drama feels earned because it makes sense.
Quasimodo didn't wait and be like, maybe I shouldn't go save Esmeralda or whatever. No. He broke out of Notre Dame, he swung down, and he friggin' saved her.
So spoilers for Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Hunchback of Notre Dame. Yeah. But there was none of that, like, I'm not gonna, and then.
But then he does instantly come back because he's like, oh, she's in danger.
Yes,
it's like, yeah, of course she's in fucking danger. You guys are doing a very dangerous thing.
Right. She's one woman. Like, I'm not super angry that she gets captured like 2 minutes in going to Camelot, because honestly, that inevitably that was going to happen.
Right.
Maybe she wouldn't have gotten captured with Garrett, and maybe they both would have gotten captured. And so maybe it is good that Garrett stayed away, because then he came in with the cavalry and was able to like turn the tides of the battle. So maybe that works.
Right.
But it's all so cliche, and I'm so bored, and it just
it was dumb, and it just also was like, what? Come on! Like, I always feel like those are so unjustified. Like, this is like just not the kind of it's just not the kind of thing you'd be doing at this time. And it's also just like, I wish sometimes when people are like, no, never mind, I'm just gonna be all alone, I'm so sad, just be like, fuck, what the fuck are you doing? like stop feeling sorry for yourself. Like, come on. Like, it's just like, if you at least empathize with the other human being there who's like, hey, like, I want you to be my friend, or hey, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I do agree with you that the relationship is very forced.
Oh, with a sledgehammer.
Yeah,
Is it forced?
It's
It
just
is-
kind of turns on a dime, and you're like, okay,
Yep.
sure.
Yep. All right. They have like one sparring session, and she kind of looks at him like, "Oh wow, wow," and then he gets hurt, and then he heals her, and then they sing that stupid song, and now all of a sudden they're in love, and this happens in the span of like 15 minutes.
Yeah, of the movie. But even
of the
within the
movie.
story, it's like less than a day. Like, because my first thought was like, you met him less than 24 hours ago. And you also were like, both of you were like really not having, like, you were very icy. He was very icy towards her. And she was like, what is your problem? Why are you so icy towards me? Which is, I guess that's fair. But like, it was just the turnaround on that is just completely ridiculous.
It's just
and unearned.
No, yeah, that's I think that's what makes me the most angry. Is it's unearned. It's just this is just happening. Because
Well, you
it's
also
happening.
just don't need to set them up as being that antagonistic to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the other thing is like sometimes when people who are interested in each other read, they like are interested in each other. Like that's
Right.
the other
They
thing
don't
too.
have to fight about everything.
Yeah.
Hello. Like sometimes opposites don't attract. Sometimes two people who are actually have shit in common and want to be around each other and want to have civil conversations with each other. Hey,
Sometimes
they're
they
in a
wind up together,
relationship.
yeah.
Who knew? Who knew? Oh my god.
Who would have thunk it? No, but
Wow.
they have to be like actively antagonistic to each other. That's the
That's-
only way a love.
And that's another 90s rom-com
Yeah,
cliche.
definitely.
You know, and
Which is like this one kind of. I mean, I think it's helped by its just complete lack of structure in that you like it could be rape culture, but it just doesn't have its shit together enough to like do the full rape culture. So it's just like okay, this is just bizarre.
This movie, I swear, this movie is just a series of events that happens.
I mean,
It just blah.
I feel like I like it has like it has some of the Room qualities of just like whoa, this is kind of fun that this was a movie there, and then and some of it like I don't know, it's like very just kind of random. I think it throws a lot of shit at the wall. It lags sometimes, but then other times it doesn't. I mean, like, honestly, I was expecting it to be a lot worse than it was,
Sure.
personally.
Sure.
Like, because I was expecting something offensive, and, like, the dragon characters are kind of offensive. Like, they do have, like, they probably hold the majority of the offensiveness. But, like, it's not, like, you have a blind character, and like, even as, like, a female like heroine, it just sounds like the drug, so
A female hero, a female
yeah,
protagonist.
female hero, yeah, whatever, like in a a action move, someone who's who's fighting stuff. Like I feel like it could fall into more traps. Like it's just but part of it is because it doesn't have its act together, so it's like not very sexist because it's not like trying. But I kind of like that it's like it's not really trying very hard, and so in the end it winds up being actually probably less offensive because
like,
the more they try, the more offensive it gets usually.
Right, because I mean, you say that they're they're throwing a bunch of shit up against the wall. My problem, and seeing what sticks. My problem is the shit, for the most part, the shit that they're throwing against the wall,
Doesn't
except
stick.
for Garrett, isn't original shit.
Oh yeah, but yeah,
Just try something different, and they did. Garrett is actually probably the coolest part of this movie.
Well, that's what I mean. I think that's like what's interesting about it. It's like, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people and a lot of money have to go into animated movies,
Sure,
and so
they're
a
not
lot of
cheap.
times they're not very original, and like it's not always true, and there are many exceptions. This is not. I'm not saying prove me wrong. There's many things that prove that wrong,
Yeah.
but like it is still. There's not as much especially when a studio is at a time where the studio had a lot of control over it. There's it's just not going to be original.
The whole point of this movie is they're trying to beat Disney at their own game,
right,
and they're just not doing stuff that is the caliber of Disney. And again, there's millions of animated things out there, and Disney is definitely not the end all be all of animation. However, They were deliberately trying to copy Disney.
Yeah, but like, see, I guess I'm like, as my anti-establishment, I'm like, that's
Sure.
what I kind of like about it.
Sure,
It's just
okay.
like, it's not doing a great job at making a movie really at all. But like, I kind of like that was the idea. It was like, we're gonna do what Disney does, but we're just gonna not have the money or the skill.
We're gonna do it better. Ah.
And then it was made by I mean, obviously, again, I don't really want any movies to be made that way. I'm not promoting
Right,
this.
right,
Like, this
right.
is not a good way to make a movie. But I think just for me, maybe it's just, I feel like Disney gets too much credit for things. I think that they are very formulaic, and I think that why we're like, ugh, it's, you know, emulating the formulas, because the formula's not very good. I think if it's a better formula, then you know, maybe that actually wouldn't be as glaring, because you could have like potentially better stories. I think a lot of the stuff they do is not, it's just not that exciting, and they get a lot more credit for it. For like, it feels like establishment. They're like they're Joe Biden or whatever, and it's just like, I just feel like they get way too much credit, and like, really they just figured out what works. And I get pissed off when like very like artistic minded people are like, yeah, you know, it's really great, you know, these are classics, it's great. And I'm like, like, and I mean, a lot of people do this, but like, I don't know, I don't feel great about it, because I don't think they'd really push any boundaries, and I think they hold back culture in a lot of ways.
I think it'd be really fun to like watch all of these with you and talk about them,
All the Disney movies?
Yeah, because I'm not saying that I hold a lot of the Disney movies up on pedestals, especially now. I think if you would have talked to younger me,
Right.
absolutely, like that was the end all be all of animation, and I refused when I was little, because I was an idiot, to watch any other animation, or any of the other animation that I watched was just immediately dubbed inferior because it wasn't Disney. And then I watched Spirited Away.
I was gonna say, what about
And
Miyazaki?
I know, and my mind was fucking
It's like, what are you
blown
talking about?
wide open. Yeah, I know. I was an idiot
again,
child.
My family, that was, I think we were seeing Miyazaki's before anything else, really. So
I mean, in my family, as far as animation goes, you had, you know, Disney and Looney Tunes and whatever the hell was on Cartoon Network that my mom was okay with us watching at the time.
yeah,
So
no, we had a lot of Miyazaki was a mainstay in my house. Spirited Away was like, whoa, there's a Miyazaki that it's getting a theatrical release for Miyazaki. This is cool. We're not just watching the VHS.
I was so angry. I was so angry the year that Spirited Away won the Best Academy Award for animation.
Did you not watch it?
This was before I had seen it.
Wow.
I was angry because it beat out whatever the Disney movie was nominated. I can't even tell you what the Disney movie was that was nominated.
Oh,
But
now
I can tell you
though.
everything about Spirited Away. Yeah, because I'm just like,
It's good. I'm glad
it was so good.
It won. It should have. It definitely deserved.
yes, it's
to win
a
against a Disney
masterpiece.
movie.
It's an absolute masterpiece. But I would love to watch a lot of the old school or 90s stuff with you and just like talk about it, because I think that would be really interesting.
Well, but I think that like Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Actually, from a disabled perspective, offensive. Like, truly offensive. Like, not even remotely as like well done as Garrett is. You know, because Garrett, it's like a disabled character. Like, actually, not bad. Like, I mean,
No,
and we
not
should
bad at
probably
all.
like get into. I feel like
It's time. Yeah.
This has been fun. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. I don't think, like, even if it's longer, I think it's because we had a lot of cool things to discuss about it. But I think that, like, as a character, he's really not that bad.
No,
and like, even
he's
and you
really
saying
cool.
the thing about like him, like people being mad his eyes weren't like he wasn't given sight for some fucking reason, like that makes me like the movie even more, because it like I'm sure it was just like just people weren't paying attention and that's why they did a good thing, but like but like that I also, oh my god, and I also read some reviews where they were like, you know, they barely remember the character's blind, which is what they always say when you have a better blind character that's more realistic, and it infuriates me. And I'm like, if you are sighted and you're fucking talking about this movie, you shouldn't be allowed to. You should get you should get a blind person, because you can't fucking say that shit. You can't be like, wow, this character is actually like a real human being who's blind. The writers must have forgot they're blind. Like, oh, it makes me so mad.
No, I mean, granted, you know, people are comparing like Garrett to Daredevil, and yeah, okay, I get it. He is a bit of a super crip, sure, but you know,
but that's not the. I mean, he's a super crip because you're in a fantastical world,
yeah,
so
it's a fantasy world. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she also behaves in a way that is unrealistic.
Sure. Yeah,
like it's you know, and I think that is definitely a valid. You could validly critique it, but it pisses me off when they're like they forget that they're blind. I'm like, when did you forget he was blind? Because we watch a lot of shit where you forget they're blind, and then people will say like, "Oh, it's actually good," because the blind character at some point was like, "I want to see," you know, and then they're like, "Very good, realistic, good." They remembered they were blind, but then when you have a capable blind character, there's obviously blind. Like, there's nothing he did that made him seem sighted. He didn't look at anything. I mean, it's animated, so he could actually have consistently eye lines be consistent. So, you know, it's actually really not bad. So, it makes me so mad. If you review movies, please God, like, don't say they forgot that the character is blind. Like, think of, like, just
talk about the blind character. Hell, just acknowledging that the character is blind is a really good first step.
Right, and also just making it so that that his blindness is part of his character, but it's also not like he's not sitting around being like, "Oh, I'm blind."
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just a capable human being, and it's an identity. It's just like, why is this like black character not talking about their descendants from slavery or something? You know, like, it's just like, what the fuck? It's not always about that precious. Sometimes you just live your life.
One of the cool things about watching a bunch of YouTube reviews is a lot of people are like, yeah, and they, obviously they do acknowledge the fact that, you know, Garrett is blind, but a lot of people are talking about how this might have been one of the first instances they were introduced to a character, especially a character in an animated film with a disability.
Well, this is my favorite.
That's really cool.
This is my favorite thing that is infuriating about this movie, which was when I was like, "Ooh, I want to do an animated movie for the podcast. Let me go find a list of animated movies." And I typed in animated movie with blind character, or animated movies with blind characters, and Google was like Quest for Camelot, and that was it. And every single hit was Quest for Camelot.
Were you thinking of Quest for Camelot?
Yeah, it was just like it was basically like, did you mean Quest for Camelot? And I was so mad.
No.
I was like, "This really? Are you fucking?" There's one.
think,
like, no matter the movie, there should not be one.
Right, and I think that's really sad that this movie was just shelved and panned so critically, and people just forget about it, and they forget about this character, and they forget that he's disabled. And justice for Garrett.
That's the most infuriating part about it. It's like, it's remembered as a stupid movie that's bad and was trying to be Disney and failing, and you actually like really did have a very decent blind animated character, and then that's it. That's all you get apparently for all of the history, because Disney's not doing it, because fucking Disney is ableist as shit. I mean, seriously, what other disabled characters are in Disney other than Little Mermaid?
Well, Quasimodo.
Yeah, Quasimodo. Yeah, that's true.
I would have to sit here and like think for a while, but Quasimodo is definitely the first one that comes to mind. It's interesting. I've never looked at The Little Mermaid through the lens of disability. I've always looked at it through like the lens of feminism, and having her give up her voice is so much more infuriating to me.
Yeah.
As a concept. Now, granted, this is coming from someone who owned a copy of The Little Mermaid when she was little and watched it so many times the tape literally fell apart. Not even joking. It fell apart.
Probably happened in my house too.
I love The Little Mermaid very much, but yeah, I think for me that is the most infuriating part.
That she gave up her voice.
Right, that she gave up her voice. However, I think watching
that's the thing, is it's like, if you think about it from a disabled lens, he's not only super sexist, it's also very ableist.
Oh yeah.
So it manages to be extreme on both of those things.
Ta-da! Yeah. Anyway, don't want to go off on another tangent. I could talk about Disney all day.
But like, I mean, I think, but I don't think Disney does very many disabled characters at all. And they definitely don't do characters where their identity, like, we read disability into characters. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I guess Quasimodo technically is a disabled character contextually, but it feels very far from like the experiences of disabled people, you know what I mean? Like, I think there's something about Garrett that's just kind of like chill, like it's just like he's just, you know, it's just like how some people are blind like, and some people, you know, and that shapes their decisions, but at the same time it's also just like he's a dude, like he's actually a character, you know, not a lot of the characters are super well thought out, but like he's probably one of the more well thought out characters.
Yeah.
Like he's more consistent as a character. Like can actually, like unlike most movies we watch, I felt more like the movie was letting us into his world more than almost any other characters,
And
like in some ways.
And he's voiced by the incredibly gorgeously voiced Carrie Elwes. So
Yes.
getting to listen to Carrie Elwes speak for, you know, an hour and a half is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very fine with that. I'm totally okay with that.
I mean,
he has a lovely voice.
His stuff is not bad. I like, it's a real bummer that's like that this is completely, it's just buried in a, you know, shit, kind of. It's objectively a bad movie, but like his character's not that, like, it's really not that bad.
No.
I was actually really expecting a very offensive character. Like, that was what I was thinking, like, is it the movie's bad or is it just a very offensive character? And I was like, oh no, it's like the movie is definitely bad, but like not offensive at all. It's actually surprisingly super unoffensive.
I would love to. I was actually thinking about this watching the credits or listening to the credits. I keep the credits on after I'm done watching the movie because I'm usually getting ready for bed and I like to hear the score and everything. But I was thinking, man, Garrett, that would be a really fun cosplay for somebody to do.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be good? And especially if they were a blind person.
Yeah,
that would be really freaking cool. Well, yeah, they would have to be. But yeah, that would be really cool.
You should do it.
I should do it. Like a gender swapped Garrett. I mean, I'd rather go as Garrett than Kaylee.
Yeah, she's kind of a nothing character.
I know.
I don't think her outfit's that recognizable either.
It's not that stupendous. Yeah. I mean, Garrett doesn't really wear anything that's very identifiable except for the Falcon.
Like he does. Yeah. Guess, I mean, the cane is great.
The cane is great.
Yeah.
It's just sad because it's really hard for me to recommend this movie to anybody. Yes, you should absolutely drop what you're doing and watch Quest for Camelot because it's just, unfortunately, besides Garrett being awesome, there just isn't enough there to be like, yeah, you should totally watch Quest for Camelot again.
Well, I mean, if you're going to make a good animated film and you want to have a main blind character, I think that you definitely skip the first 25 minutes.
Oh, sure.
It lags so much. Mm-hmm. You know, you could, I think, start 30 minutes in or whatever, and then I think that's good to kind of like just, you know, just for free associating some like blind character things.
Okay, tell you what, if you really want to, just Google Garrett's song. Honestly, or just YouTube. I'm sure someone's got a supercut out there of like great Garrett moments from Quest for Camelot. Just watch that.
I mean, I don't know. I think if you watch the last hour of the movie, I think you could get some stuff because it's just, you know, it's maybe people don't find it as fun to like try to figure out why the mix is so bad and like really take apart like something that's gone so wrong, which is like just brings me more joy than anything else in the world. I love it so much. It's truly happy for me. So I'm like, I would love to watch this movie.
Okay, I would absolutely watch it again with friends. No questions asked. But I'm not gonna come home on a Friday night and be like, I'm gonna throw on Quest for Camelot. It's not happening.
It's true.
I would put on the Iron Giant before I put this on again.
That's fair.
Because the Iron Giant's amazing.
But like, if you're gonna have a podcast and get to talk about how bad it is,
that's true.
I recommend. I highly recommend. So
I'm pretty sure this has been talked about on other bad movie podcasts.
Get a podcast just so you can watch this movie and dunk on it, but also kind of be like, oh, interesting, blind character. Why don't we do our blindness cutie?
Sure.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. It's gonna happen. I'm going to be fair because I came in after this movie ended. I was like, I'm giving it a 20/20. My whole experience was shitty. However, having talked with you and really thought more about Garrett and about his character and everything, I would be happy giving it a 2100. Okay. Unfortunately, there's just too much shit around the pearl that is Garrett that's holding this character back for me to rate it any higher. But I mean, same, basically same reasons. Garrett is awesome. I enjoyed his character very much. Yeah. Everything around the movie around him is just terrible.
Yeah.
So there you go, 2100.
I mean, I was also going to rate it 2100, so there you go.
Yeah,
This is
perfect.
sweet. We're matched up perfectly. I'm glad I could bring you to my rating even without you knowing that's what it was going to be. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's he's capable as a character. He has, his main crux, even if it is super unspecific, is still technically ableism. Like, it's not like, he doesn't leave when he becomes blind. Like, he's not like, oh, I'm blind, I can't be around people.
Right.
It's like he had an ally and then experiences so much ableism that then he leaves. And like, yeah, bad movie. A lot of the plot points even that involve him make no sense. Like him like leaving her, and that's like, that's not even, it doesn't even really feel like the character as much as it is like dumb plotting that is nonsense.
No, it doesn't, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So I think that like his generally as a character is like he experiences ableism, he's a capable person, he's figured out a way to make it work, and he saves the day. The way the society treats him, though, very weird. Like, they have a very, it really is socialism is what they're talking about here. And, like, he's ostracized from the socialist society, but then when he saves the day, they love him. So that, I'm like, I don't even know what to say about that. That's just doesn't, I just don't even fucking know what that means. It definitely doesn't. It feels very incoherent to me. I really wanted to read some sort of like, oh, the movie is trying to make this problematic argument about like, like when we watch Places in the High Rise, like it's the 80s and the Great Depression, but I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck this means. Like, it's weird, but it's also like completely incomprehensible. But yeah, so I don't know what's going on with Camelot. They need to like figure their shit out. I'm all about the UBI. Like,
Yeah.
Rupert, I don't fucking know what he's supposed to be. At first I was like, is he like supposed to be the welfare queen? But I was like, no, I think it's just not the 80s. We've gone from problematic 80s to just like 90s where nothing made any sense. And everyone was like, we have enough money for anything. So.
It's just, oh my god. I'm very much glad we're leaving Camelot, and I don't want to return unless I am followed by a bunch of knights and their servants banging coconuts together. That's how I would like to return to Camelot.
Would you return if Kaylee was in danger and you had to go back?
No.
Okay. So you are doing the thing we're making fun of Garrett for doing, but even more aggressively.
Yeah, no.
You're just like, fuck no.
I'm just
out.
I'm just gonna go fuck off and play with King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table and watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Because
wait, you can't hang out with them. They're in Camelot.
No, but they don't go to Camelot because it's just a very silly place.
Yeah, but you're picking Camelot. You gotta go. You gotta go up to some other thing.
Okay, fine. I'll go hang out with the kid from A Kid in King Arthur's Court.
Okay. Wait, which kid?
Oh, have you not seen this movie?
No.
It's based on an old Mark Twain story. It's called A Kid in King Arthur's Court. It's about a baseball playing kid who gets transported during a baseball game back to Camelot and gets to hang out with King Arthur. And there's an evil wizard, and it's great.
That sounds
It's
really
awful.
fun. That's I enjoy that.
You should check it out. It's quite terrible.
Well, you should play. I mean, I don't know why you're picking baseball of all the things.
I don't know. It's the plot of the movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that was the original plot of the Mark Twain story. So I
mean,
know,
it
but I haven't
seems
read it, so I don't know.
bizarre enough that it would be weird if they came up with that. But who knows? They came up with this movie, so. Anyway, that's
okay.
It's quest. We
let's be
quested.
done.
Our quest is done.
So what are we doing next week?
Okay, so I don't know what is come over me this year. I guess like it wasn't like we just did it, but for some reason I'm like, let's just do some made for TV movies that are just only available on YouTube from like the 60s and 70s.
Yes,
apparently this is my new thing. So we're gonna find out. Like sometimes I'll look at a trailer or something, but literally I found the YouTube video of the entire movie, and that's what I found. So we can watch the entire movie.
Nice.
It's called Seven in Darkness.
Ooh.
It is from 1969, made for TV movie. and it is about just 7 blind people on a plane. So
Groovy. Okay,
find out
I'm
what
here
that
for
is.
this.
Yeah, I'm like truly don't know a lot about it. So we're in darkness. 7 in darkness. There's only 2 of us. God, 7. If only. Can you even imagine being in a room with 7 people?
No. So we're 5 minus plus 2. No. I was trying to make a math joke.
There's 5 of us.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a podcast where we do not do math.
Nope. I don't do math.
Except for I was saying before the podcast that what I did for fun as a child instead of playing with dolls was math problems. Which is true. Anyway, what are we blindsided by this week?
boy.
Melissa, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I'm gonna say that watching Quest for Camelot was like being in my bad place, and I would prefer to be in the good place, which
It's gonna be for a TV show.
Yes, which finally I started watching
Wow.
this week. I have never seen it. I know it's over. There's like 4 seasons, and I know people rave about this show, and it just was never on my radar. I just was kind of like, I'll get to it whenever. Blah blah blah. And I finally did, and I totally understand why people rave about this show. It just gets my sense of humor. It's so awesome and funny and kind of off the wall, but it just feels so meaningful, and it just feels like this is the right time to be watching this show. It's like a cozy blanket type of show.
Gotta love a good show in the
right.
afterlife.
Yeah, and it has a connection because Kristen Bell plays the main character. She was also in Frozen, but
she's in Frozen. I forgot about that.
She plays Anna. Yeah,
I forgot she's Anna. Well,
yeah.
she is Veronica Mars.
Yeah. But Kristen Bell's in it. Ted Danson plays
Love Ted Danson.
plays Michael. Yeah,
I love the show. I've
He's
seen all
so
4
great.
of the seasons.
Yes, and he's so great. I love Jamila Jamil.
Yeah, she's great.
I love Chidi. I love just everything about it so far, and I'm so excited to be going on this journey. And you and a bunch of my friends are like, "Oh my God, you're finally watching The Good Place!" I posted on Facebook that I'm finally watching The Good Place, and in like 5 minutes, I got 40 comments.
Wow.
So I'm very
People
excited.
being like, wow, so late to the game.
I
here.
know. Most people were like, welcome. We're so glad you found this show. I can't wait till you get to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, exactly. What season it? Because that matters.
Oh, dude, no, I'm so new. I'm on the 3rd episode of the 1st season.
Oh my gosh.
Literally just started watching.
We're in quarantine. You said you found out about a week ago. What have you been doing this whole week? Why aren't you just watching The Good Place?
I know. Well, okay. I also needed to finish up Cobra Kai, and I'm done with Cobra Kai. So finally, I can put my full attention.
And we
on
know
The
how
Good
you
Place.
feel about Cobra Kai because it's never been mentioned in.
I love Cobra Kai so much.
I don't know. Do you?
Oh, I love it.
It's never been one of your.
I love it so much because I'm like, should I talk about Cobra Kai? No, I think I'll talk about something else. But I should. Okay, that's so. Yeah, so The Good Place and also Cobra Kai.
That's good. You always got to get those 2 in. Yeah, Good Place is great. Yeah, I'll tell you all the things that happen. And no, I'm not gonna. We've spoiled a lot of things. The Good Place is like you could truly spoil it.
No,
in a way
please
that
don't.
I would not do on a podcast.
I want to find out.
No, I would. No, of course I'm not gonna do that.
Good. So what about you?
So what I'm blindsided by this week is I got my first dose of the Pfizer vaccine.
Yay,
so
congratulations.
It's very exciting.
Hey.
I got my healthcare worker adjacent privilege. But it was just a very it was very exciting. They're doing it at the Oregon Convention Center. So technically sort of difficult as a blind person. Conrad was with me the whole time, so he was being my guide, but I was also there's a lot of volunteers, so normally if I had gone alone, I'm sure people someone else would have just done that. It was just I had a guide, so they didn't do that. But it was very set up. It was very painless getting the freaking vaccine. Oh my God, I was they put the rubbing alcohol on my shoulder, and then I was oh, so I'm waiting. They I feel like a tiny little bit of pressure on my shoulder. I'm like, okay, so when are they gonna actually do the vaccine? She's like, okay, that's it. And I was like, what? When did you do the vaccine?
You had a good nurse.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm sure the next time I'll get punished for this. I mean, I really don't want them to do my left arm, because then I'm gonna have to go to work at some point and probably will want to be able to write anything. So I'm like, I might have to do my right arm. So I'm like, it's probably gonna hurt more, but it was sore last night, and got it yesterday, and it's actually a lot less sore right now. So I don't know, maybe I could be just one of the lucky ones, but it was an awesome experience. I'm very excited. I'm also very, very happy that both of my grandmothers have now been vaccinated for their first one, and I got it on the same day as one of my grandmothers, and now I'm getting my second dose the day after my other grandmother, so very exciting. I'm just really happy and I'm also, this is now old news, but they just had a court case, and now like everyone in Oregon who's incarcerated is phase 1A. So
Hell
I'm,
yes.
so fucking happy
Oh,
about
that's
this.
so good.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God.
Good news.
Fantastic.
I'm very excited. I hope we get more vaccines soon. But I'm just like, I just fucking love vaccines so much. They make me so happy. I love them.
I cannot wait to get mine. I've never been so excited for a shot in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, very excited.
I'm such a weird person. I've always loved vaccines. I'm like, they make it so you don't have to go to the doctor later on.
Hey.
Like, they're like, oh, my favorite thing. Everyone who makes vaccines, now everyone's getting credit for making vaccines. But even before COVID, I was like, the true heroes of the world. Vaccines. So great. I love them so much. So so that's my plug. Vaccines. Obviously at this point most people are like, yeah, I understand why vaccines are good now, but like get as many as as you need to, but like, yeah, definitely get them. They're great. So yeah, that's what I was blindsided by, and I was blindsided by how little it hurt. But I don't know. I'm sure everyone's experience is different. I'm sure it did hurt for some people. It was just, I'm sure I got lucky, but still, I don't want people to be like, "What? I got it and it did hurt. You lied." But yeah, so that's my exciting thing. Hopefully, I can't wait until you get to also talk about your vaccine experience.
I'm counting down the days. I'll be very thankful when I can actually share my story as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to literally everyone getting vaccinated very soon. I mean, I'm just gonna put it out there. It's the secret. Just assume that it's gonna happen very soon, and it will, because that's how the world works.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our theme song is by Lucia Fasano. Our YouTube is Citizen White Cane Podcast. You can turn on the closed captions on there as well. Our Twitter is White Cane Pod. Our Facebook and our Instagram are both Citizen White Cane. And our email is citizenwhitecanepod@gmail.com. If you'd like to leave us a voice message, there's a link in the show notes. What did you work on Quest for Camelot? Were you one of the people who left?
Oh, can you do a better version of Ruber's villain song?
And what would be like if you had like a time specific or culturally appropriate, culturally appropriate is probably not the right word, but like something that's not anachronistic, a cane that you could use at different eras and different climates and biomes or whatever.
Are you a conjoined dragon who spouts pop culture references? If you are, we want to talk to you.
Yeah, no, just no weird homophobic shit.
Yeah, no,
please. Any of those things, leave us a voice message. And the link in the show notes. Come back next week. We're gonna do 7 in Darkness. We're gonna find out mostly entirely what that is. And if you want to follow along, it's all on YouTube. But we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Citizen White Cane.
Oh, I didn't realize you were
What? Tall? Rugged? Handsome?
blind.
You know, I always forget that.